Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I always ponder if I'm live or yet, and my screen sort of just says live last minute. Everyone, for those that don't know me, my name is James. I'm the founder of Rupert, your 24/7 social media assistant. We are on a mission. It's very simply to help brands extract more value from their comment section, as well as stopping the trolls and all the negativity that unfortunately happens with comments when you're using paid and organic social. We work across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and very shortly YouTube. So if you are struggling to deal with your comments and you want a solution to help you, then Rupert potentially could be one of those. Every Wednesday, I do this live. It's between 10 and 15 minutes long, and it's just to give you some ideas on how you can extract more value from your comment section. And this week, we're discussing common mistakes brands make in comment management, avoiding pitfalls that can damage your brand's online reputation. So let's get into it. Every week I start with a stat, and a lot of these statistics are available online, but I always like to sort of just bring them to everyone's attention because actually some of them are really interesting. So this week is 1 in 3 people would rather get help from a company on social media than by calling or emailing them. We know people are now flocking online more and more to ask customer service questions, whether it be delivery, whether it be my discount code's not working. We know more and more people are using these channels to communicate with us, yet us as brands a lot of the time are neglecting them, or alternatively we're just missing them because of resource. But again, just be conscious that especially if you're selling online, those in the e-commerce space, people are going to be online asking you these customer service questions, and they're not going to be emailing you, and they're definitely not going to be calling you, especially out of hours. So common mistakes we as brands make, and I always split this into 3. So the first one is how actually this can impact you and your business. So damage brand reputation. So ignoring or mishandling comments, and again, this is whether they be positive or negative, can really harm your brand's reputation. And from my perspective, and again, from Rupert's perspective here, is that especially for the negativity, there's nothing worse than going onto a paid ad, a sponsored ad, where you're potentially looking at buying that product or service and seeing a load of negative comments which haven't been responded to. Because one of 2 things happen. We as consumers go, well, do the brand care? Because they've not even sort of responded to these. But actually, from a failings perspective, what if I have that experience and I need to then vent my anger? I need to get back to this company because I've had the same issue this particular person does. Are they going to essentially silence and just be silent as they are on this occasion? So again, it's really harming your brand's reputation by leaving the negativity. What it also, on the flip side, from the positive side, is that when people are telling you about how good a service or product you've got and they've had a really good experience with you, there's nothing worse than, again, on the flip side for the negative, is just seeing these brands just silencing and neglecting these comments. People have gone out their day to communicate and engage with your brand, yet we're leaving them unanswered. And again, from a reputational perspective, it looks really, really bad, especially when we know how much time and effort it takes to run paid or social, how long it takes to run organic, especially, if you're running it using, things like Canva and stuff, it takes a lot of resource up. Yet all we're not then doing on the bottom of the funnel is just communicating back with our engaged audiences, which is absolute nuts. So just remember that brand reputation isn't just on the negative, which it absolutely does, but actually from those positives as well. You're really harming your reputation with that particular customer or potential customer who's sitting on the fence. The second one is missed engagement opportunities. So overlooking comments can result in missed chances to engage with your audience, again, which I've just suggested. So answering just neutral questions and interacting with your community, with your engagers, is really going to help their brand experience with you. And again, what we see a lot is people tagging in their friends, and this is a really good opportunity. If someone's tagging in their friend, it's because they feel that your product or service or something you're offering can really help them. So again, why are we leaving these unanswered? And there's so many missed opportunities, and I see it time and time again. It doesn't matter if you're a garden centre down the road or you're a big brand like Brewdog. When people are tagging in their friends, jump on that. They're potentially free conversions, and we know how much it takes to convert a client at the moment, especially using social. I'd be all over those. And again, we see so many missed engagement opportunities, not just from an engagement perspective, but actually from an acquisition. And the third one there is inconsistent messaging. So there's nothing worse than seeing a really copy and paste job when it comes to comments being replied to. Now, what it does is a lot of the response that you see, they're not really taking into account the question. And again, you see that inconsistency then across their entire socials because different people in the team have done it. This is really going to harm how you're perceived. And actually, again, are people then going to keep engagement with you if they see that if they've had a really inconsistent message one day and then something different the other? So make sure from a brand perspective that your message is consistent, whether it be discount codes, whether it be delivery, just make sure that it's consistent across the board. And again, using things like Rupert will help that, but also just make sure that the team, whomever is looking after your comment section or even your DMs, are trained to know how to answer particular questions in the same way. Because like I said, you don't want inconsistencies across the board. Every week I give a few examples of brands who have either done a good job or a bad job with comment management. And these guys, Synthesia, that's how I pronounce it. Again, how frustrating. These guys have got loads of comments on their paid ads. Again, they'll be paying a lot of money for these paid ads. Yet, again, neglect. Look at how many comments they've got here. And actually, there was a lot more. So you can see here, there's a lot more engagement on this particular post. Again, they're paying to distribute this now to new audiences. And again, totally left unanswered. So this is a bad example of, unfortunately, and Synthesia should be all over this. So avoiding the pitfalls. So here's 3 tips for you guys to take away and implement in your businesses and brands today. So you don't need you don't need to pay for any of these. You can literally just set all these up today for free, and actually you'll see some really good results off the back of it. So tip number 1 is set up sentiment-based responses. So you're going to have to use things like AI for this. You don't have to, but it's obviously going to quicken it. So what I would do is for every comment you receive, I would put them into certain categories. So it might be sales opportunities. I'll use the ones in Rupert. So sales opportunities, customer service questions, positive feedback, negative feedback, trolling, and general interest. And I would then, based on what category they sit in, is create a sentiment-based response based on that category. It seems a little bit long-winded if you've got to do it manually. But again, what this will then do is the people that have got sales opportunities will get a very tailored response, which will be different to, for example, customer service, because customer service typically will be someone that's already purchased from you. A sales opportunity might be someone that is sitting on the fence. So again, you want the call to actions to be very different. Same with the negative and positive. Again, you can actually set those responses up. So this is something you can do. You can set up a Google Sheet and set them all on there. But you'll see such a massive difference when you're responding based on sentiment of the incoming comment than you would just, again, copy and paste job across the board. You'll see a massive difference there. And what you'll also find is that the engagement you get back from that will be huge. The second one is establish clear response protocols. So again, this will need to be an internal process. So what I'd ideally love for you to do as brands is to, dependent on, let's say you do step 1 and you set them into your categories, is, okay, for complaints or negative, how are they responded to? And actually, what's the protocol for those? If it's someone moaning about delivery, does that go to a customer service team? If it's a sales opportunity, does that go to the sales team or potentially the marketing team? Obviously, depending on what brand you're working for. And also, when it comes to protocols, is time. So something that I would love brands to do more of is set a KPI in how quickly we respond to comments within working hours. So obviously, if someone responds on Friday night, realistically, it's not going to be dealt with until Monday. But within the working week, how quickly can we get back to these people? We know, based on the data, people want a response within an hour, which is, in my opinion, silly. I just don't think it's just not achievable. But actually, within 24 hours, I think that's more than achievable. I think we as brands, actually, we should be setting up those protocols and KPIing the response time. For me, is one that I think you'd see, again, a lot better engagement, which again is going to help your free reach, which is your organic reach, but also your CPMs on your paid social. And the third tip is monitor and adjust regular just regular use. So always review performance. And I know this seems really silly. I'm sort of telling you guys how to suck eggs because a lot of you will be in marketing teams or your brand owners, and this will just be like, of course, James, we need to review and monitor. Of course we do, and we do. My question is, do you? And I would always be looking at the content that is getting more comments. And actually, if a certain piece of content is getting more commentary, there'll be a reason for that. It means the algorithm's picked it up and it's pushed out to an audience which is going to engage with you. Now, obviously, what you want is conversion. That's typically why we're using social media. That is our objective, which is we want people to purchase my product or service. But again, I would look at the comments, use them to reverse engineer. If you're getting the same question every time, actually potentially create content on that. So those questions are answered before they go and answer the question, which is great. Hopefully your sales process will reduce in time and your sales length. But then actually look at the content that's getting lots of commentary. Look at that content and go, okay, why are we getting it? And do we create more of it? And what you should see is an overall improvement on your socials. And again, I know this is sort of me telling you how to suck eggs here, but I see so few brands doing it. It's really frustrating because you see some content that's really, really good. And then in a month's time, they've done nothing like it after, and you sort of sitting there going, oh, what an opportunity. So again, there's 3 tips that you can take away and you can implement today without the help of any systems at all, which is brilliant. A couple of other examples of brands who annoyingly have missed the boat. So this one is Vonage, and you'll see here someone's commented, interested. Their response, again, they're paying for this ad to go out and get conversions. Yeah, again, someone said they're interested. And this is where the comment section is really important. There's so many opportunities, or as someone referenced on a call the other day to me, diamonds in the dirt, which we as brands are missing out on, and we can't keep missing out on them. The platforms, these social platforms are going to be more and more expensive to market on. Why are we missing out on free acquisitions? Again, this is a prime example. Another example here of a brand actually who's doing it really well. So here's sort of someone on the other end of the spectrum is Stripe. We'll all know Stripe. Everyone knows Stripe. It's a massive brand. They run a lot of paid media on social. And what I loved about Stripe is that they had a lot of comments on a lot of their ads, and they've responded to all of them pretty within reason. There's some that's missed. Fine, we can let them off a couple, but general rule of thumb is they reply to a lot of them and actually get into conversations or they send them to different landing pages within their website. So yeah, as a good example, if you want a brand to look at from a paid perspective who are respond to the comments, go onto the ads library, type in Stripe, find some of their ads, have a look at how they're responding. And yeah, they're a really good case study of someone who is responding the majority of the time when it comes to comments, which is, again, for a big brand like Stripe is great because I see a lot of big brands, unfortunately, they don't do that. But yeah, again, Stripe, really sort of kudos to those guys. They've actually done what I would suggest they do. And that is the end of it. Under 50 minutes as always. It never runs over. If anyone does have any questions, type away. I can't see how many of you are even here, so there might be no one here for all I know. If you do have any questions, type away and they will come up on the screen and I will answer in the next couple of minutes. Next week is discussing, again, it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, of course it is, analysing social media feedback for business insight. So turning social media comments into actionable data for your marketing strategy. And again, for me, there's a lot of data that's sitting in the comment section that we as brands are just, we're sort of neglecting, yes, but actually I think the comment section isn't as good as Google Analytics, or so it's perceived. And actually, when you look at some of the questions that a lot of brands are getting on their socials, I think there's such an opportunity to reverse engineer that, not only for content, but also just for business insights, which is going to help you and your brand essentially make more sales, which is what we are ultimately here to do, especially on social. As always, there's never a question. If anyone does have a question, you can email me or put me a message on LinkedIn and I'll respond. But as always, thank you all for listening and I will see you next Wednesday. Have a nice day. Take care.